First of all, my sister-in-law, and you may all ask me where this came, or what the qualifications were, but my sister-in-law, right before I got here, sent me a thing of the 2024 best places to live, and Harbour Island is one. You know what that? I know. In the top 10. So I'm liking that study. Even somebody from Tampa did it. I'm good with that. It's so nice to see everybody. My goodness, I haven't, a lot of you haven't seen in a while. But anyway, let's get down to business. Now, I know that there's a lot of concern about what is going on with traffic. Hello, ma'am. How are you? We have Representative Pittman Gonzalez here. Thank you so much. Your seat's up front. So we have been in communication. We will talk about that. Clearly, you can always do better with communication, but we are here to share ideas and to get feedback on the congestion that really is affecting the whole downtown area, downtown, Harbour Island, Water Street, Channel Side, Ybor City, and we're continuing to grow. So, as we grow, we're going to have more vehicles. So we're going to do what we can to provide some of the answers for transportation, the extension of the streetcar that we've been working on for quite some time. But being able to provide those, but also dealing with the traffic congestion. One of the things that I'll share with you is that research shows that around 30% of traffic congestion, when it's associated with events, are people that are circling looking for a good parking space. So that's one of the things that Vic Bede and his team put into our budget last year was $7 million for a wayfinding software. And there was a bit of confusion with City Council and they pulled that out. So that would have been helpful in providing software where people could find available parking spaces. So we're going to continue to work on that. A lot of people say we need more parking spaces. We do down in this area. But if you look at the entire area, we have enough public-private parking spaces that just need to be managed better. And there needs to be a collaborative relationship with that. So back to the communication. This evening's meeting is focused on providing some of the ideas that we have through talking with a number of different groups and then getting feedback as well, whether that's this evening or you go have conversations, and we're going to have an additional follow-up meeting as well. So now, as far as the communication, all of our communication has gone through Mike and Larry as the heads of the 5 associations that are on Harbour Island. That information, I think Mike would agree, has not been fully shared with the residents of Harbour Island. We sent out what's being called now snail mail to make sure that everyone was invited to this meeting so that you can hear the information directly from us. So just wanted, and Vic is going to have in his presentation, he has a listing of all of the meetings that were held, presentations, those types of things. We have the QR code up here, and that's going to lead to a survey that, and I think there are paper handouts for that QR code as well. So that's going to lead to a survey as well, if everyone wouldn't mind filling that out and sharing it with neighbors as well. That would be wonderful. So tonight we are going to share a long-term, and that means in transportation world, hopefully only 5 years, for a long-term plan that has involved FDOT, THEA, better known as the Selman Expressway, the Downtown Partnership, SPP, Harbour Island, everybody ensuring that we are doing all that we can to handle this increased traffic. I'll give you just a couple of examples. that Vic is going to go over, the punch-throughs, to be able to have two additional streets that are east-west punch-throughs, so people will have something other than Channel Side to have to drive down. So that, and then changing some of the Selman Expressway entrance and exit ways to take traffic away from this location and be able to flush it out further down from your neighborhood. So those are just a couple things. Specifically tonight, what I'm going to address is the entrance onto Harbour Island, coming from Platte Channel Side and onto Franklin Street. Now, in the one meeting that I participated in the many that Vic has, what we heard is everybody wanted a dedicated right-hand turn to be able to take that right uninterrupted to get onto Harbour Island. And then also, so that is in the plan, and then also there are two additional lights. One, there's not three, there's two. One is going to be at Water Street, and that will allow flushing out traffic onto Water Street, so there's not a long line when people are turning to get to the hotels or to get to Amalie. And then the other one is going to be a pedestrian crossing. I know a lot of people say do away with that pedestrian crossing right there by the embassy, from the convention center, the Embassy Suites. But think about this. One, these lights will only be activated, they'll all be straight through green or flashing yellow if there are no events. We're just talking about events when we have a large amount of traffic coming down into this area. So think about this, if we push all of the pedestrians down onto Channel Side and only Water Street, then you've only got two crossings. If we're able to control the traffic in 3 crossings and let them all go across at once, and then the traffic continues on and off of Harbour Island, that's going to be a much quicker process. So I know that that idea has come up for many people to do away with that middle crossing. So basically the presentation tonight is to share with you, and we don't like to say that we're going to control anything, but in this instance, the idea is to control pedestrian activity. So these lights, pedestrians won't be able to go up and punch the light and it turns green for them while you all are sitting in traffic. All of these lights will be synchronized. They will all be controlled. If there's no events and there's no traffic, then they're going to be either on flashing or on green, so that people will be able to go on and off of Harbour Island. Everything that we, that when I say we, when I always say to my staff, we're going to do this, I go, that means you, right? So the mobility experts are the ones working with Stantec that did the study, that came up with some of these ideas. And the reason, and it was my decision, to include these changes along Franklin Street in with the wastewater project, I said, let's put them in there so that while that intersection is dug up, it's not going to inconvenience. We're not going to finish that wastewater connection and then have to stop everybody again as we put these lights in. So for me, it was just a matter of expediting the process and not inconveniencing the residents on Harbour Island. So that was my decision, and we ended up pulling that out so that we could have additional conversations with everyone here. So what we want to do is to hear from all of you. Again, Vic is going to make a presentation that includes the specifics of that on and off Harbour Island, but also the long range and how we plan to try to get the congestion out of this neighborhood and away from Harbour Island, basically. And so that's the presentation this evening. So thank you all. I know you all have other things that you could be doing this evening. So thank you for being here this evening. And Vic is going to take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate you starting us off. And just want to reflect something the Mayor said. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll project. Oh, keep the mic. All right, you got it. No worries at all. So, again, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Representative Pittman, for being here. We truly appreciate your support, and I know that through the legislature, you've been working on trying to get additional funding to look at more options as well. To Harbor Island residents, thank you very much for making time. I know you all have concerns about some of the conversations that have been going on. And to the mayor's point, that's why we're having this second public meeting. The last public meeting was 4 years ago. I'm not sure how many of you remember, but we had a pretty good attendance back then. We've had some conversations with the community since, but we're here primarily to share information. We got a lot of emails. We understand that you're concerned. We are here to share information. We're here to listen to you all, get your comments. Please do get involved. You've got a QR code, you've got comment cards as well. My presentation is organized into 3 stages. The first, to the mayor's point, is our downtown is in a flux. We're in the process of developing. Water Street Phase 1 is complete. We have Water Streets Phase 2, Phases 3, and then eventually with Gasworks in Ybor City, it's kind of going to blend with the downtown area. And we're going to talk about how all of that connects. That is going to take 5 to 7 years. Within the next 5 years, we'll have 2 more connections. So that's the first thing. What's the outlook over the next 5 to 7 years? Then we'll bring it in a little bit closer. We'll look at what our conversations have been, what was the basis for the study, what the study found with respect to Franklin Street specifically, and then finally we'll walk through what the recommendations are. We'll take Q&A, and again, we're here to listen. We do anticipate a follow-up public meeting. We have paused this project. The mayor has paused this project, as you've heard, so that we get input from everyone. But we do feel like there are some information gaps that we need to fill. And context is very important. So, on that note, so this is generally our downtown grid right now. And when Water Street was first being planned, and a significant change to South Downtown in our area, in the Channel District and the East Side, there are essentially 2 tenants that we were looking at to develop this entire downtown, South Downtown. That was previously a mill. It had diagonal arterials crossing downtown, and there are many incomplete connections. So the first tenet was to complete the grid, meaning increase the number of intersecting streets, north-south and east-west. Streets like Whiting, streets like Washington, which do not go across, which historically at some point did. And the reason for re-establishing the grid, especially in a new development or redevelopment, is the grid is very resilient. It inherently offers redundancies, more paths for traffic, and it performs better under any scenario. With traditional traffic engineering, grids cannot fully be evaluated based on level of service alone, because level of service looks at one street at a time, and grids do not, and that's why grids outperform as well. So the first was the grid. The second was moving traffic away from the arena area further north. We were hoping some of this would happen as part of Phase 1 itself, where a garage was proposed at the southeast corner of Morgan and Cumberland. It did not happen, but the good news is it is happening as part of Phase 2, and we've been working with STP and TIA and other partners like the arena, as the mayor mentioned, and that is their priority with Phase 2. So that's the other thing, move the parking assets in multiple areas across a distributed grid system to reduce both parking delays and traffic delays as well. And then the third piece of it was any critical inflow ramps, like ramp 6B, to work with TIA to relocate that ramp from landing on the channel side right in front of the arena where all the action is. And granted, that ramp is shut down by TPD during major arena events, but not all. And that is a ramp that a lot of people use. Many of you might use it on regular days as well. So that's being relocated. So those are the kind of the central tenets. Let's look at how this is going to happen. So, I wonder if you can see my mouse. Okay, well, I'll just point here. That's Morgan and Cumberland. And in the southeast corner there, where you've got the teal lot today, will be a 12 to 1600 space parking garage. What that will do is create a solid alternative to the Ioria garage, or to the Garrison lot, or to some of the facilities along Channel Side Drive, so that the traffic doesn't just sit there once people come off of Bayshore. When they can get onto Channel Side in certain days, they sit there. We're trying to move them further into the grid. So that will help significantly. That was supposed to happen in phase 1. It is happening now. What that will allow us to do is look at opportunities to two-way Green Street. And that would have to be coordinated with Thea as well. We just had a workshop with Thea on that. Their project to relocate the ramp is already funded and moving forward. They even announced it in the media recently. What two-way Green does is two things. One is right now, if you come down the interstate on Tampa Street, once you get down to Green, your only option is to go through the S-curve. The S-curve is also a major pedestrian crossing. So it's, again, huge conflict between heavy pedestrian activity and vehicular activity. When you two-way Green, that section, it gives you options. Either to go to Ashley or Florida to go back up north to find parking somewhere there, or go south on Franklin off of Green, where you cannot make a left turn at Green. So that will be part of this conversation. As part of relocating that ramp from Channel Side and Morgan all the way to Whiting Street, what it will do is two things. One is that portion of Whiting in blue currently does not exist. We've worked with the Expressway Authority where they're going to build that connection of Whiting between Jefferson and Meridian. Now that creates another east-west road to the north that goes from the channel to the river, creating additional options. It moves traffic from Channel Side Drive, that ramp 6 feet, all the way out to Whiting, and it accesses Meridian, where you have the capacity to receive that traffic. So if you live on Harbour Island, and many of you do, of course, you may want to take that ramp, get on Whiting, get onto Meridian, where you have the capacity, and head south. But what it also does is, even if you're not a Harbour Island resident, if you're headed to the south downtown area for recreation, for events, whatever else, it moves you several blocks north first and allows you to go through the grid and find different opportunities to park. And there are many opportunities. 2 blocks north of there, you've got the Twigs garage. 1 block south of there will be the Cumberland garage. There'll be a different way to access Fort Brook garage off of Whiting as well. And then there's the Whiting garage itself beyond Fort Brook. So that gives better access to parking facilities, 30% of traffic, and moves traffic away from Channel Side Drive. So this is happening. This has been announced. The project is moving forward. So that's one change. The other change are some of the changes that we're also looking at. North of Whiting Street is Washington. We have an interlocal agreement with the Expressway Authority that specifically mentions that all of these grid connections will be made. The first part of that agreement was making that connection as part of Water Street Phase 1 between Meridian and Cumberland. So that wasn't connected because of the mill. Then it did get connected. That diagonal Green stretch went away, and we got a new connection from the river to the channel. That is the theme. We're rebuilding the grid in this area, which was once separated by the mill. As part of this as well, you'll notice a north-south connection. So you mentioned Water Street's phases 1, 2, and 3, then merging with Gasworks at some point. So that north-south street will be Water Street. It'll be a calmer street. It'll probably have different type of traffic, slower traffic, multimodal traffic, but it gives you one more connection. And that will be a signature street that goes all the way up that spine of what used to be the mill from Channelside Drive up to Union Station, connect to Nuccio Parkway, and into Ybor City. Why is that connection important? Because the interstate work that is happening right now by FDOT, this is where the FDOT coordination comes in, will add additional access points at 14th and 15th Streets. And Nuccio goes directly there. And our cycle track also follows there. So everything that we do creates multimodal options. And the reason I mention cycle tracks are not because any of us may want to bike, but those that do reduce the number of cars on the street. Transit does the same thing. So that's what I wanted to mention. The other thing as part of this phase, and this phase is in permitting, by the way, right now, for Water Street Phase 2, creates additional grid connections between Meridian and the Channel District, and multiple redundant connections for all of the developments. When you have one way to get in and out, for example, some of the buildings, like Bank of America, right on the river, that garage has a lot of pressure. Because there's one way in, one way out, that creates other issues. When you have multiple access points, again, you're distributing traffic. If there's work going on, or utilities, or all kinds of things happen in our right-of-way, there's another way to get there. That's the basic tenet. That's what we're planning towards. That's what we've always been planning towards. Unfortunately, as development goes, transportation lags development. That's just the nature of the beast. Things are permitted first, they get built, and because they get built, the right-of-way has to be improved. And that's kind of the order of things, but that's the 5-year outlook. So, looking a little bit closer here, I mean, we were in a room like this in 2020. It was a long time ago. We had 76 attendees. Many of our team members, like Brandon, who's back here, back there, who oversees our transportation engineering, was also here at the time. We had several other people. At this point, I'd also like to highlight our mobility team that has worked on this. Margaret, the manager of Smart Mobility, and our chief engineer, traffic engineer, Nick Ann. Between them, they have over 70 years of experience in traffic. We don't lack for expertise. We have James Townsend with Stantec, whose firm is located on Harbour Island, on Franklin Street. They did the study, and they're a national firm. They're among the biggest firms in the nation. So we're relatively well advised, but having said that, we're here again to take input from you all. The last meeting, we had 76 folks attend. We had all kinds of maps, as you can see in the bottom, and we had red, yellow, and green pins where folks could actually put their highest, second highest, and third highest priorities and share concerns. And the top concerns were not, they weren't that surprising. They're pedestrian and traffic issues primarily. And we were looking at that same corridor from Knights Run on Franklin all the way to Brody. Based on that meeting, we commissioned a study with Stantec. That study got completed in 2022. It had 5 years of crash data starting 2018. It had volumes that were just as we were recovering from the pandemic. The reason I mention that is this study did show that the signals that we're proposing at Franklin and Water and the crosswalk between Water and Channelside Drive were warranted for major special events. But that was data taken during the pandemic. Today, those volumes are even higher. So if anything, the case for those signals is stronger today. Now, I'd like to clarify that, even then, while we were successful, we bounced back from the pandemic, like pretty much no other place in the nation. And we're really lucky for that. Today, David, my counterpart and the director of the convention center, who's against the wall in the back, will tell you, we have a record convention season. We have significant convention activity, which is, on aggregate, really good for our city. The same is true for the arena as well. Record season, over 150 events at the arena. And so, all that to say, to the mayor's point, we expect even more traffic and even more growth than there is. And as far as downtown development goes, the fact is we're only a third of the way done. North Downtown is being studied by the Downtown Partnership right now. So there's going to be a lot more development in the area. We're preparing for it, and whether we introduce some sort of measures today or we get additional input and we're gonna have to do something in just about every part of downtown. Here's a list of all of the engagement that we've had beyond the public meeting. Stantec had some meetings. We met with the mayor and Representative Pittman and a few other folks from Harbour Island, really just to understand the pulse, to share the bigger picture, those kind of things. We've had field meetings with Mike and Larry. I haven't attended all of them. My team has. We've hosted Mike at the Traffic Management Center. We walked through the signals and the simulation. I think back in 2022, if not 2022, I'm pretty sure. And then Mayor Castor had a public meeting last year. Brandon was in attendance as well. We spoke about this issue. Many of you raised those concerns. We're not talking about a very large stretch of roadway. So the concerns are going to be similar, and we understand that. And then more recently, we've been doing a lot with platforms that I'm not usually on, with Facebook and others. So we've talked about the growth already, all kinds of events. So before we look at the signals themselves, what we're proposing, let me first state what we're doing in the short term. We talked about what we're doing in the long term, 5 years. The signals, we'll leave that conversation on the side because we'll get input and continue that conversation. But in the short term, we're working with SPP, the arena, PPD, and all partners that are, and the convention center, all partners that are part of managing special events within the area, within the limited network that we have today, granted, and looking at different ways of doing traffic control. And there's one plan out there that SPP has developed that we're vetting right now that will mimic what we're trying to do in the long term. And that will, in essence, shut down Channelside Drive in front of the arena and push most of the traffic up Florida to find other ways to find parking and get back to the arena. But this will only happen after we've put in that right turn lane coming off of Bayshore and Blackbridge on the channel side. That's something just about everyone in this room had requested. And adding that signal phase. So we're going to do that right turn lane, we're going to do that signal phase. But now let's look at what the study yielded in terms of the signals themselves. Our goal and the case for these signals is pretty straightforward. Today, pedestrian activity is not organized at these intersections or crosswalks. We're trying to signalize them and organize that pedestrian activity. So there's a clear time when the pedestrian goes, and that time will be when they push the button and the computer at the signal decides where in the cycle they're best synchronized. The vehicles are best synchronized. And then there's a time when the vehicles go. And when the vehicles go, all the signals will be synchronized with Channelside and Franklin. So that intersection is the driver of the two other signals, at the crosswalk and the intersection of Franklin and Water. Overall, we feel this is safer, primarily because we see this all over downtown, all over the world practically. Control rather than flashing lights, which are warnings, they're not control, will give a clear indication to pedestrians when to go and when not to go. It does not mean that there isn't errant pedestrian activity or there isn't errant vehicular activity. That happens no matter what. That happens everywhere. I mean, no one facility is unique in that respect. The other important part or piece of this puzzle is synchronizing traffic, both going in and coming, going out and coming back in. So when you get off of Bayshore onto Platte Bridge, you'll get into a right turn lane. You'll have a right turn signal phase, which will be coordinated with the crosswalk, the mid-block crosswalk right by the trolley stop. And that will take you all the way through. Again, these are synchronized signals, and it's not anything different. It's very similar to what we do in Florida or Tampa, with one big exception. On these lights, they will always be green for Franklin until there is a pedestrian. And when there is a pedestrian, pushing the button will not break the synchronization. Rather, it will tell the computer that this is the best time to go. So it's not like a pedestrian pushes the button and the light changes immediately. If anything, it makes the pedestrians wait until it's a better time to cross so that when it's the vehicle's turn, they go through it. And these are not new techniques or strategies. This is, I mean, we could do this with 70s technology even. So it's not anything drastic in that regard. And finally, some other findings from the Stantec study basically lend to more efficient travel and definitely a safer environment. And I'd like to highlight again, at the rate that we are growing, I mean, it's inevitable that there will be more interaction between vehicles and pedestrians and facilities like these. And so we've got to do something about it. That's all we're proposing. As far as that crosswalk goes, one of the things we've heard is, why don't you eliminate the crosswalk and push everyone out? One is the capacity issue, which the mayor mentioned. The other is, if we examine what that crosswalk is, it is literally a path from the arena through the Iorio garage, through that little walkway there, which, by the way, the arena is looking at upgrading and kind of making it a lot friendlier than it is right now, through the crosswalk on Florida. And I'll address why we're not signalizing that crosswalk, because Mike had asked that question, mainly because it doesn't have 12,500 vehicles on it every day. 3 hotels, a trolley stop, which we're looking to extend, and I'll touch upon why we're extending that trolley, but it has 1.5 million riders. A convention center and a river walk. That's what is along that pathway. So it may look like a crosswalk on Franklin in Florida, but it's a lot more. And most of the people that walk that crosswalk are either residents or employees within the area, or people that drove there for events. So they're drivers as well. So we have to consider everyone when we design these systems. And then just a quick thing on the streetcar. The reason we're prioritizing the extension of the streetcar is, one, it is one of the biggest success stories nationally in terms of ridership per mile. The highest or second highest ridership in the last 3 years per mile. Consistently growing ridership. The ridership today is what we projected for 2040 a few years back. And the extension will aggregate many more parking opportunities, like the Poe Garage and others. And keeping that streetcar going, connecting it to parking and different places, creates a many-to-many relationship between parking opportunities, which create congestion, destinations, and we are a desirable downtown. That's why we have everyone flocking down here. And the third is traffic. We're dispersing traffic the more we connect to these parking locations. Unfortunately, this just takes a lot of time. That is, some of it is in our control, some of it is not. What's in our control with this community and the city at large is we need local funding. Because that's seed money to go after even more money, and that way we can expedite infrastructure projects. And this is what the signals will generally look like. These might not be the prettiest pictures, but they're not very intrusive, large mast arms or any such things. We're going to try and keep the form factor pretty limited. And that's Franklin and Water, that's the crosswalk. This is what it's going to be like for the most part, until there's a pedestrian and they push the button. And even then it doesn't go immediately. And then that right turn lane, as the mayor mentioned, we're going to put that in. We're trying to coordinate the timing such that once Franklin reopens, that lane is available or soon after. Because we don't want to put that lane in while Franklin is shut down. It kind of gives the wrong signal, especially to visitors. No pun intended, wrong signal. And then the right turn lane will go in at the same time. And I think that's all we had. Please do, I mean, if you're digitally savvy, please take a picture of that and then kind of take the survey, or please fill out comment cards. But we'll take questions. And Brandon, if you don't mind joining me, and then Nick and Margaret, because I'm pretty sure there are certain questions I may not be able to answer. So, yes ma'am, I saw your hand go up first.
Hi, thank you. My name is Fernanda Lavender. I'm a long-term River resident, and I appreciate the opportunity to meet you all. I don't know if this pedestrian crosswalk is going to go in or not, but if it does, I think you might want to consider shifting it 10 or 15 feet to the south where the convention center parking opens up, because there are always cars coming in and out of there, crossing over traffic, and it would make sense to have them in the same location if this goes forward.
Sure. That sounds good. And ma'am, would you mind providing that comment either on a card and this as well? Because what that does is, or we'll write it down. Can we just write it down? Okay, that's good. I know what you're saying. Absolutely.
And it's, 15 feet past the pedestrian
Yes.
walkway you're proposing, so.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Guy Van Balen, Vice President of SNA. I also live on Harbour Island. A couple of questions. So you're going to make a right turn only. How is that going to be implemented? So right now they try to do that with the police. First of all, I want to say the police are one of the biggest hazards to traffic in downtown. I don't know where they came up with, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. I don't understand the various cone things. Last week with the Disney on Ice, it was, I never saw such a craziness. And so part of the problem we have downtown is the way that the policemen are doing the cones. And I really think that that needs to be looked at in terms of that. I really mean that.
But also, that's something I think that the next meeting will definitely have law enforcement here, and they can talk about the MOTs, and I'm certainly no expert in that, in moving, people in and out, but also I think to Vic's point, so lightning fans, all trained, right? Everybody knows how to get down here, they know where they're gonna park, they know how to get out. People coming to a convention, Disney on Ice, a concert, they have no idea, they're looking for the closest spot.
Right.
And so what we're saying is, in this larger plan, that we're gonna be pushing everybody out of there, and the long range is not to have any of those cones necessary. So that would be wonderful, but we will have law enforcement here, because I've heard that, even Representative Pittman has brought that up several times about, it just seems like the officers are letting all the pedestrians come by as they flush people out, and the lights continue to cycle. One thing I think that Vic, I just want to make sure that this is crystal clear, that on that right turn lane, that it won't be a right turn and then you're stopped at that pedestrian crosswalk. All of those lights are going to be synced so that the pedestrians are flushed across at once.
But how, you're coming down Pratt Street and you're gonna make the right turn, and that's always a cluster there, because people don't know what lane they're gonna be. How are you gonna funnel everybody properly into the right lane where they're not always trying to pull out at the last second or pull in?
Okay, well, that's the engineer. And the last thing I'll tell you that my whole team shot down, which I think was a brilliant idea, was to mount lasers on top of all the high buildings, and those people that stop in the middle of the intersection, and then just continue to look forward as if they don't know they just messed up the entire, we just liquidate those cars. They all voted no. I think it's a grand idea. And that's another thing too, we will have one location, they are just so you know, the ride shares are geo-fenced out of certain areas. So the people who are ordering them have to walk out of the area in order to get a ride share. Yeah, that's now. Now, it doesn't stop them from driving down the street, but it stops them from being able to get a ride, to pick up a ride. They have to go back. And that's something too, and that we have to coordinate, that everybody gets trained. We've done a good job of that on Howard Avenue to say this is, if you're doing a ride share, this is where you go.
And that will be addressed as part of that MOP with SPP as well. Because shutting down Channel Side Drive in front of the arena creates other opportunities from a traffic flow perspective of how people access the area. And we'll be able to have more than one pickup drop-off location depending on which part of town are.
Okay, there were lots in there, so very quickly, for the maintenance of traffic during the events, today we just had a meeting with Tampa's Downtown Partnership, TPD, Nick, myself, and April come here. She's with Special Events Office, and so we had a very small group meeting, always looking to refine anything that we have going on in the area. So we targeted the conversation on what happened during St. Patrick's Day weekend, because we moved the parade to downtown, and there were some issues associated with that, and so we're always looking for ways to correct whatever we have going on in the area. We also have the plan that with SVP and Stantec had worked on, that Vic has made reference to, so we are vetting that as well. In regard to the right turn lane, we still have the plans in review as far as how we're going to do that. We would essentially you come off of Bayshore and you go over the Platte Street Bridge, and then you were going to drop that lane. We aren't going to move everyone into 3 lanes and then let you move over. We're going to give direction on assignment for the lane uses. And we've been working with Kimmons, the contractor for the wastewater project, and we're working very closely with them to time it. So we are doing our implementation right before they open it up, or it might be the week after. There's just timing. But we're trying to get that as tight as possible. So we don't want to lose the through lane capacity on Channel Side when there's nowhere for people to go. So we wanted to be very sensitive to that, knowing that we need the circulation in the area.
And I think to his point, the weave issue, that, how does that right lane get utilized properly without a lot of weaving, and what happens downstream?
So downstream, we're installing some tubular markers so people can see right in front of them. Those are the markers that are only about 3 or 4 feet. And so people will be able to see that they cannot go straight in that lane. And then we will have advanced warning signs to let people know all the way down on Bayshore that that right turn is a drop lane and that it will drop up at Franklin.
So keep in mind that it's not just Bayshore that they're coming down to get to that lane, right? You've got coming off the circle in front of Publix, you have people coming out of Publix, me, and I go out, I have to cross the 4 lanes to get into that right lane. And you also have the traffic coming off of, what is it, Platte. So you have really 5 lanes merging. At what point are you gonna have not just Bayshore traffic, but the other 2 areas coming in? Where are you gonna tell those people that, by the way, you gotta get into the right-hand lane and it's only a right turn?
So if I could take a stab at that real quick. So in the short term, that condition, especially coming off of Publix, if you're coming from Little Bayshore, making a left and you've got to go over for it. So those lanes still are going to be there all the way through the bridge. And there isn't enough room. So today, that condition won't change as much. But it'll be a little bit better than before because now you have an exclusive right turn lane. Where, previously it was a through right lane. That condition, as well as coming off of Platte, as well as coming off of Bayshore, where you have, more or less, now of course that crosswalk was signalized thanks to Nick, that uncontrolled movement off of Bayshore onto Flat Bridge. All of that is being addressed as part of the West River Build project. The West River Walk project, it starts at Platte and Bayshore and kind of moves north from there. And it will, that's part of the scope, to look at Platte and Bayshore and what are the options to improve operations out there. So it's not that we're not looking at it, it's been allocated as part of a project that's already in process.
This gentleman back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Have you considered four-way pedestrian only at the major intersections? So that pedestrians never compete with cars? That could be by Sparkman Wharf, which is always a miserable headache, or any of the other intersections along that way?
So, that is a great question. And that's something the mayor has been asking us to do for a while, to be honest. So the question is, can we do a pedestrian scramble? Meaning, all vehicles stop for one phase and only pedestrians go in. They can cross across. This is very heavily utilized outside major transit stations, major crossings. You'll see Japan kind of pretty much pioneered it, Europe tacked on as well. Very well utilized, works pretty well. It is a technical question. May I pass that to you, Brandon?
Explain.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, so the ped scramble, I think Vic mentioned, is where we stop all cars and it's a pedestrian exclusive phase. And during that time frame, that sometimes will add to the delay for vehicles. So we've implemented it up by the Riverwalk, by the Strass Center, where everyone just, it's a heavily used pedestrian crossing. The vehicle usage is not quite as high. We can look at it, but there are some drawbacks to it, and we would have to put that within our traffic model to see, is this really going to be a more efficient operation or a less efficient operation? And it could be either way, but we can look at it.
One of the drivers is we have to time the lights for the longest length that a pedestrian would walk at a reasonable pace. All of that is in the manual somewhere, and that's usually the diagonal. And so the longer that diagonal, the longer that pedestrian phase, the longer vehicles keep piling up, especially during major special events. It works really well for schools, and also we have it at Main and Road, for example, where both crosswalks go at the same time.
Okay, on to my other question I had earlier. So right now there are 3 crosswalks, which is ridiculous. And four, actually, sorry. And so I'm not sure if you're cutting any of them down. There's certainly the 3 that are back to back. The issue, you talked about it would be events. Well, given by the numbers, the events will be every day, because between the convention center and Amalie Arena, so it will be a permanent light, and that will just back up the traffic tremendously for us in both directions up Harbour Island. That really isn't a solution. I mean, and you also have, I've seen, the people are, a lot of times you see in that one, you don't have the map up there right now, the picture right now, but the one by the convention center is typically people, conventioneers that are going to the hotel. That's really most of it. They're not going to the train, they're not going to Water Street, they're going to the hotel. You have the walk, what you call the overhead for that. That's what should be utilized, not that crosswalk right there. And as people, as long as they know they have choices of 3 or 4, they're going to use every single one. Most of them are, with their cell phones. They're not even watching. It really is not a car issue. It's a pedestrian issue. I agree with you on all that, but we need to control. But that, to me, we're just going to have with lights, and it's going to hurt the drivers and not, really.
So if I could address that, that's why we use data. That's why we study. And I understand that a lot of you feel that this is going to make things worse, because things are really bad right now. And this is not new. I think you all will admit this has been a sentiment for several years now. But the data tells us that signalizing and organizing pedestrians will do better than not. That's one. The other is the overhead bridge. This is a vestige from all the way from the 60s through the 90s, especially in downtowns, that happened once people started moving out and living in the suburbs and downtowns were work only. The challenge with these sort of bridges is the national data on these overhead bridges is dismal when it comes to usage. Pedestrians do not use these bridges. We cannot force them to do that. And what they do instead is indulge potentially in dangerous behaviors against the design, which is why when we design these facilities, we follow desire lines, which is where are the pedestrians going? Let's design for that. But in this case, this is one, an existing crosswalk, and the other, signalizing that crosswalk actually improves operations for vehicles. That's what our data tells us. And all we can do is follow data and science. And I do understand the concerns that folks have, but ultimately our recommendations have to be based on data. So, Mike.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you, Mayor. I want to follow up on that point because I would go into the embassy once a week for the Avis. And I went in there, went up on the second floor. Sorry. I went up on the second floor of the embassy suites to look at where the crosswalk was. And it's really a nice area. There's a lounge. It looks pristine. It looks like it's never used because it's never used. And there are two stairways to walk up as well if the elevators are crowded. But if you go on the first floor, there are no signs, not one sign that indicates you can go across on this crosswalk on the second floor, not one sign. And I guarantee you that that had to be built, that crosswalk, in order to get for that hotel to get a permit. And I went to the front desk, because I own a few hotels, and asked, why isn't there a sign? And they said, well, I can show you where to go. I said, no, I don't want you to tell me where to go, I know where to go. I said, why isn't there a sign? We'll answer it. If a guest comes in, we'll tell them where the crosswalk is. This is what I talk about, thinking outside the box, something already there. Why don't we try to move 100 guests? I mean, they would never be on the road. We move 100 people. And the other thing is, when you cross that, you are right in the convention center. You're not out on the road in a roadway where all other cars are turning into the convention center. You're on the second floor, right at an entry to the convention center. I think that's a simple solution. The other thing, and Nick and I have met, and I know Brandon met Bug individually. We have a concern on the technology, as you know. Saturday morning, I sat at the light at Channelside and Franklin, and it seemed really quick. And so I got out my phone and filmed it. And it filmed it and went to Nick. I said, Nick, can you tell me what the timing is on a Saturday morning heading north on Franklin, going past Channelside? He said 24 seconds, and he retracted. He said, no, 20 because we have a 4-second, which is true, a 4-second lead time for pedestrians to cross, which is a good thing, it's safe. Showed him the video when he timed it. It was 12 seconds. I said, is this an error? Nick hesitated to say it's an error, but you've seen the video, and it's a mistake. And the concern I have is, other than me bringing it to your attention, you never would have known it. There's no indication of technology in this system that will show you when there's an error of timing at these intersections, and I'm really concerned about this. The last thing I think, and I appreciate David in the back, because there used to be signs, and they're back. I wrote a letter to him, thank you, that had these signs. For some reason, they were taken down during COVID, said no stopping, no parking, right on Franklin, and he put them up within 2 or 3 weeks, and I think it's helped. Again, simple things, but one of the things I think would be really important is no left turns out of the convention parking area, that circular drive. They should, now with all the lights coming in, and Water Street being built, once this construction's all done, is they can go down Water Street and turn up to Florida. And the last thing, and you and I differed, is I'm not sure why you wouldn't have some kind of pedestrian traffic signal at where the Oreo garage is, and also where it's Thunder Alley. If they're going to make it more pedestrian, they're going to make it a bigger, more friendly, why wouldn't you want to make sure Florida is safer in that area as well, and even put a blinking light that's on Bayshore?
Sure. So I'll address all of that. That is likely a good candidate for rectangular rapid flashing lights, not for a signal, because Channelside Drive, Franklin Street has 12,500 vehicles daily. The other really doesn't. It's all garage bound and it's a T intersection. Why haven't we done it? Because if you look at the backlog of priorities that our operations division has relative to our funding, it's really, I mean, laughable at times. As far as the signals malfunctioning or, not doing what they're supposed to do machines have faults? Yes. All of our machines have faults. With signals, they're designed to fault safely. Meaning if there's a fault, it won't be what you see in the movies where east, west, and north, south go at the same time and people die. So safety comes first. As far as monitoring the signals, Margaret, Nick, and Brandon currently are overseeing a complete overhaul of the city's traffic signal system. It's a $40 million grant from federal and state funds, not one local dollar. And we will have a very modern traffic signal system, which, when there is a fault, will start blinking on its own and will tell operators. But we cannot monitor each signal. That's why we depend on technology. This technology evolves all the time. So we're lucky that we're in a time where this happens. And then I will, on that first thing with signage and all, that's why we're here. We're here to listen. We'll look at signage options. I would venture to guess that it won't make that much of a difference. Because the national data on that, and here's how we know the national data on that. It's not that we read every research paper that is out there, but we're part of communities like the Institute of Transportation Engineers, like the National Association of City Transportation Officials. And these folks, and we're very engaged in these conversations. We have conversations with cities over the last 5 years like we've never had before. And we're learning from each other. And the biggest thing we've learned is we all have the same issues. It doesn't matter where that city is and what the problems are. But we'll take that into advisement as part of this process and take it from there.
You're in the last speaking.
She's gonna shoot it if I don't.
Hello,
We'll take that input and then we'll consider.
Deborah Ellinger, and you can tell from my accent I'm English. And I think what's going on here is what I call paving over the cow paths. And I'll explain that. If any of you have driven in London, you probably know that you can't get from here to there because all of the paths are higgledy-piggledy because they paved over what people used to do. That's what it sounds like you were saying when you talk about the path that goes through, and I'm going to focus on the mid-block crosswalk, where I think what you're trying to do there is pave over the cow path. You're saying because we've always done it and because we have a nice path there, we're going to keep it. And my strong suggestion is that we eliminate that mid-block crosswalk, because it's only half a block to walk to the left or walk to the right. Put a barrier in, stop people from crossing there, direct them to a safe crossing, and get rid of the need to put a traffic light or anything there. Well, yeah, and possibly expand the other crosswalks to make enough room. I'm actually not against traffic lights, and I like the idea of a pedestrian-activated one so that you can continue the flow when there are no pedestrians there. But I do think you need to stop paving over the cow paths. Get rid of that mid-cross. Thanks.
And so as we grow, if we do nothing, things aren't going to get any better. I think we can all agree upon that. It's only going to get worse. So doing away with the mid-cross with these lights, it will all be synchronized. So now there will be 3 locations that pedestrians can cross that are controlled. If you do take away that middle one, then people are going to line up. If you look at the convention center, that's already fenced off. So people are going to line up there to try to go across Channelside, or they're going to walk down to the Water Street crossing. So then what happens is mayhem, because there's not going to be enough room for them to queue up, so they're all going to walk across the street at once. So it's an idea of, instead of having 2 locations for people to come across, during large events, only during large events. Then we will have 3 that are all synchronized at the same time that they'll be going across. So it's a matter of volume that I think is what we're talking about
Here,
here.
how do you define large events?
Any events other than the day-to-day activities down here.
So any convention?
So-
Any conventions,
Like today,
anything like that.
So, large events for the arena are 10,000 or higher attendance. But we see, when it's not 10,000, it's close to 7, 8, and that's where things start blending in. For the convention center, and I don't want to speak for David necessarily, but things like Soft Week, where you're going to have about 18,500 people attend. Most of them will stay at hotels within the downtown area, and it'll be flow, meaning they're coming in and out through the days. But those are large events, and typically those are the events for which there's staffing on the street, but there's also staffing at the traffic management center, and there's staffing by our operations
So they
folks.
turn it on those particular dates, is that what's going on?
Yeah, who's controlling it?
What switch? I'm sorry.
Turning on it. Synchronized lighting, how's it?
It changes on its own, so it's a pattern that is
How's it
programmed.
on large events?
So we initiate for large events, we initiate a special events pattern for our signal system. So, Nick, you wanted to just touch upon that? That is done from the traffic management center. It's staffed.
But it's manually done.
Yeah, of course.
If the attendees beyond 10,000, we will staff in our traffic management center. And also we have designed a special pattern that is different from regular AM, PM, middle day pattern, particularly to accommodate the event traffic. Yeah. Actually, to that lady, the thing you, particularly for northbound on Franklin Street, if you got red light at that location, you have to stop, right? You cannot go through. It's just just disregard the middle block. Just right now you're driving. When you go to northbound on Franklin Street, if you got red light at the channel side, you have to stop, right? So the middle block crossing, including the signal at Walter Street, when the green star is one northbound and channel side star. So at that time, it's all green, right? When you got red, even though you should just disregard the middle block crossing, you have to stop, right? You cannot go. You cannot go anywhere because in front of you at the channel side is red light. At that time, the pedestrian got crossing the Franklin Street. So it's nothing to affect you guys go northbound. Again, you have traffic lights at the channel side. That is key location. The pedestrian crossing only during the northbound is red. At that time, you are making that anyway. So that's pedestrian crossing. So another point, the reason for the middle block crossing, you stated that the volume, the pedestrian volume from the convention center goes to crossing that the Franklin. So what happened is that, so right now, why I said it's not efficient is when you have the right light for northbound, right? At that time, the pedestrian, they're going to cross it because they saw everybody stop. So they just cross it, right? So once they start cross, they're going to, once they start going cross, they just keep going. Because they say, hey, I'm pedestrians. Even at that time, the green light is started at a channel side. Right? They just, as long as the flow is started, they will keep crossing. So the way that you have signal at this location is to regulate those pedestrians. You group them together. You want them to go when you have green light.
That's the point. But
And it's not the same as central London though, because I've driven in London, my brother lives in the UK, I visit regularly. The difference with the mid-block crossings in central London is they're not coordinated with the signals. They're activated for pedestrians. So.
We have other questions.
I do want to just address that. Yep, I will. This will be my last comment, and I just wanted to respond to Mayor Castor's comment on 2 points related to that. So one is the bunching up of pedestrians and the sheer numbers. I actually think the number going across the mid number is not so bad, and I do think you could bunch them all, as your colleague said. Bunch them and get them all across at once. So I really think getting rid of that mid-block light makes sense. The other piece, though, is regarding synchronization, and I've studied this a little bit. You actually can't synchronize effectively when you have both north and south on a road, because when it's synchronized for those going north, then by definition it is not synchronized for those going south. So while it sounds like a great idea and synchronization is kind of solving everything, I'm actually very skeptical about that. So again, I think we would like to get it down to a minimal number of traffic lights and concentrate and put barriers in the right place, because there's another old saying, fences make good neighbors. You need fences between pedestrians and drivers.
Hi, my name is Cheryl. I've lived in Tampa, lovely Tampa, for 16 years, and I'm proud to be a citizen here. What I want to talk about is, I can discuss this further with my little sheet and my cue, but what I want to talk about is a situation as a driver, as someone who's coming home from work. If you could put that photograph back on of the embassy suite in the convention center, if you would, please. Thank you. Okay. I play by the rules. I sit in traffic for 45 minutes when there's a concert or hockey game, and I'm all for culture and events and bringing money to the city. My frustration is sometimes I have to sit there because I play by the rules, sit at the end of the line, on the right lane, where I belong, and then I have SUVs, fancy Range Rovers, big trucks with big wheels try to bully me and cut me off and sideswipe me if I don't let them in. There needs to be like you said, fences make nice neighbors. Let's put a barrier up there. That's a thought, because we can't have 15 police officers there. And my other situation is I go away every summer, I come back. This October, I could not believe the swarm of black SUV Ubers. Today it was the limousine. I'm sure they were picking up the hockey team, the Bruins, to take them somewhere. Nevertheless, I've seen them at restaurants in that vehicle. They drive recklessly. There need to be police surveillance, I think, in this area, supervising the traffic, because it's chaotic. I can't even tell you. The speed limit may say 30, but there's Maseratis going 60 miles an hour. I walk in the morning and I fear for my life. So that being said, I'll turn the microphone over, and those are just some suggestions, please.
Oh, that's great. And speeding is a challenge. Separator to prevent
Hi, my name is Scott Bushway, and I'll be brief. I know we're still rattled from Disney on Ice. It really was a nightmare. And I've been here and I've listened to a lot of actually good ideas. Actually, some ideas I really didn't think that I'd hear. It opens up my mind, and I think it opens up a lot of good discussion. I just want to, first of all, commend the mayor and the mayor's team. I think a lot of work went into this stuff. A lot of talented people have been involved in it. And I don't like to suggest regulating common sense, but how about don't block the box at that intersection coming out of the tunnel? During events, it's just a nightmare with people trying to get off the island and people trying to cross eastbound. And it's, I know in a lot of bigger cities, New York City, they don't block the box. And again, it's common sense, but it's minimal cost, and it would be a bad idea. And I'm not, also one last thing, I'm not a fan of red light cameras. However, if there's ever a need for a red light camera, it's right there coming out of the tunnel. Because even though it's no right on red, it would just be one more thing to discourage those people from taking a right on red anyway, which they do.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I ran into a situation the other day, and we're talking a lot about Franklin Street here. But this is over at Beneficial Channel Side, which is starting to become even more chaotic than Franklin Street. And I was going along Channel Side and getting ready to turn a right after Publix. And I had it was free and clear, it was a green light, and I was going to go ahead, and then I got the big do not turn right light thing going on there. And I'm looking over my shoulder, and I'm trying to figure out where's the trolley coming from. I know the trolley's got to be here somewhere. And I'm looking over, and the trolley was in fact at the Sparkman Wharf trolley station. And it was stopped, and it was loading people in, and there were like probably 10 people on the ground still waiting. So I'm sitting there waiting, and then people start to, you know, back up behind me, and everybody's getting real impatient. I can't move. And I don't know if there's a weight sensor or something like that, but it was really, I had a green light, everybody could have gone, and it just didn't make any sense to have that kind of stuff.
So I can address that. So the trolley has a detector on it, and it has a contact closure on the door, and when the door's shut, it sends a signal out, the light saying, "Service me now," which triggers that blanked out sign. So I'm not sure exactly what happened in that particular instance, but it could have been where the doors were shut, but then they opened again, it sent a signal, and once that signal is out, a phase is initiated. That's the safety override, that phase will stick. So again, I don't know the particular of that situation, but that's how it works. That it has an emitter, it's got a detector, contact closure on the doors, and the doors basically tell the signal whether to give it that phase and activate the light.
That would help all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
So they have like 10 different cars. Do you know if it's the same car by any chance? Okay, no worries. We'll get with hard on that then. Then we just need to check the contact closures.
But is there a way to know who moves as opposed to when doors open and close?
Well,
Moving in that direction.
so there are and there aren't. The problem with movement is at that close proximity, if we had to do it based on movement alone, that light would come on way prior to the approach because of GPS and things like that. So the contact closure is actually a surer way to activate the signal. Yeah, we need to get with hard.
I'm John Bolton. I'm a long-term resident of Harbour Island. Thank you all for your time, and thanks everyone for showing up today. To the point that our English lady mentioned, why don't we test this aspect of the midpoint thing before the signals or anything, and barricade it during an event and see and push people and have your data to that point. My other concern, and I think we've talked about this in some of the meetings, is that the crosswalk at the northbound of Water and Franklin, which is right next to the Marriott, where there's a curbing, that's what we should get rid of first. People, and I'll send you some notes that people that can't be here and sent out to a post I made, that there are people making a left to the Marriott going northbound, and pedestrians come on that crosswalk, and then someone's coming behind them to go to Harbour Island and does not see them, because they're just crossing. So that would be a crosswalk I would say we should just eliminate right now to start, but maybe do a testing on some of these events and activities, shut it down, see how the pedestrians go. Maybe as we get to the Franklin Street reopening, test that to see if it works. And this way we're not going, jumping in, but a short term to see if it answers the problem and take the data from it.
No, that's a
Just
fair
my 2
point.
cents.
I mean, that's why we're here, so.
Thank you. Okay.
So I kind of want to follow up on that. So I'm Jennifer Benning, I live in Harbour Island, I'm a scientist, so I love data probably as much as you do. And I think, kind of coming back to this paving over the CalPAC comment, have we looked at what are the appropriate numbers and placements of crosswalks first and foremost before looking at how we salvage our current crosswalks? And the reason I say that is I think we have some that, in my opinion, are a little bit dangerous. So the middle one we've been talking about, we have that fence, I love that fence, but at the same time, coming north-south, it's a visual block, so sometimes you don't see the pedestrians who are queued up, ready to cross. And then similarly now with the construction, where we're kind of diverting traffic, right in front of the hotels where there's kind of a triangle or you turn north right by the JW, there are 2 pedestrian crosswalks flanking the train tracks. So we actually got stopped on the train tracks because of pedestrians. So again, that's another example of having 3 pedestrian crosswalks between that alley and then 1 on either side of those train tracks. And I think that's incredibly dangerous, especially where it's a triangle. You have to look more than 90 degrees to even see a pedestrian coming. And so I guess first and foremost, can we figure out the optimal number and placements of crosswalks before we try to salvage what we have with these stoplight options?
May I answer that? So if you look at the length of the 2 blocks, it's not 1 block, between Water Street and Channel Side. Typical downtown blocks are a little under 300 feet. This distance is close to a little over 500 feet. So in terms of optimal placement, it is optimally placed. Maybe a little bit off of that midpoint exactly, but the rest of downtown has those crosswalks. And when we say 2 crosswalks, an intersection between 2 streets on an approach, unless it's a T, is going to have 2 crosswalks. That's what the 2 crosswalks means. But in terms of placement, it is placed such that on that segment, it may seem like it's a mid-block, but it's actually 2 blocks. Even the historical plats kind of show that it was used to be 2 blocks.
So for me, it's the fence. The fence for me sometimes makes it hard to see pedestrians. And I feel like I have to be,
So,
very careful in my
basically,
car,
yeah.
because if they're standing by the fence, I sometimes almost miss them.
You're talking about going southbound?
Going southbound.
As
So
you're
that's what I
approaching.
mean, is there a suggestion of maybe pushing that crosswalk
That's a
back
good
to
point.
the entrance?
Right.
And so I think, I'm
That's a
thinking
good
just
point,
that is a visual block to see pedestrians.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. If there's a side distance issue of,
But not even to number,
Yeah.
but 10 feet south, as it was pointed out.
And as she's pointing, sometimes when you're going northbound, they have these concrete pillars with the little round
Yes.
walls on them. I think it's a person.
so this,
Well, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to take the stage here, but I drive that route every single day for work. I work on Harbour Island, I'm James Townsend. Vic mentioned me earlier with Stan Tech. Sorry.
You want to know who you are again?
James Townsend with Stan Tech. And we were the ones who did the study. I'm seeing motions.
Which
Unless I'm
one
in the wrong spot. Yeah, okay, great. No, this is perfect. I totally echo the concerns about those pillars looking like a person. So, yeah, no, totally agree with you there. But the beauty of a signal here is that people, and Vic mentioned it, not everybody's going to stop and obey the rules, but the signals will tell them when it's safe to cross and when it's not. And so when you're talking about safety and the visual impairments, and I see that same thing, I have a low car, it's hard to see beyond the fence quite often. So that signal telling us when it's safe to drive forward and telling pedestrians when it's safe to walk across that's exactly the reason why we're looking at this.
But that's not the only crosswalk being applied in this proposal.
Correct. Correct. I did want to address the other point about potentially fencing this off too, and that is we could, there's nothing prohibiting fencing the east side, but there's no way to fence the west side because that's where the driveway is.
But it doesn't matter. We already talked about that. It doesn't matter if you fence it off on the east side. No one's going over from the west to the east side when they see that fence.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
I have seen people
Well, maybe
do
during
just that.
Castorella, but.
Well, and my only point with that, and I totally understand what you're saying, but if somebody does do that, we don't want to trap them over there, and that would
That fence wasn't there 18 years ago. That's
Correct.
exactly the point. People used to cross the median and everything else. I live on the island where they are trying.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
And that fence does prohibit people from crossing anywhere in between the crosswalk there and the crosswalk in Channel Side where 15 or 18 years ago, people cross everywhere.
Yes, no.
So the fence does work, you can't say it doesn't work.
Not
Because
saying
it
that at
does.
all. Yeah, 100% agree with
Thank
you.
you.
Not saying that at all. Sorry.
No, that was great. Thank you, James.
Okay, thank you. I'm Rob Brazo, out of Harbour Island, Park Crest, and my question is, let's assume that your traffic light system that you plan on putting in works for the traffic going north and south on the Franklin Street. What are you going to do about the crosswalks in front of the Marriott and the traffic going in and out of the Marriott drop-off area that is now going to get impacted by cars trying to turn left when the light is green, and now you have people walking across all of those crosswalks that seem to be way too many. I think this lady up here mentioned the same thing. So how are you going to keep those people from impacting the traffic? You're just moving the problem from one place to another. Because if they're standing on the corner waiting to cross the street with the traffic light, they're now going to go walk over here and cross the street over here. You need a plan for the entire area, not just for Franklin Street. And that goes, right now, the traffic that you're creating down on Meridian because of the construction here is outrageous. The Disney thing was just a debacle over the weekend. 2 cruise ships in and 2 shows at Amalie Arena, and it was just a debacle getting on and off of the island. And you know, you're talking about doing all of this stuff. Somebody needs to monitor it. I'm glad you're spending $40 million on a system that maybe finally can because the entire downtown area, the traffic light, turn green here, turn red there, turn green here, turn red there. It's stop and start all the way up and through downtown. The only ones that go through are Florida and Meridian, and Meridian only goes to the highway. All of those side streets in between on the weekends where there is no traffic because the county center is closed, the justice center is closed, all of those streets can be bang, green light this way, bang, green light that way. Okay, it takes me longer to get to the highway on a Saturday afternoon once I get out of this area than it does during the week because your lights are just so sporadic. Please do something.
That's fine. I mean, point taken. I mean, signal timings, that concern in terms of kind of what are we going to do about the Marriott traffic, or every project has some other kind of consequence as well. Ultimately, that's why we model and find out what is going to give things the best benefit.
Okay.
And right now,
How about a review of this system 6 months after you've implemented it?
very good. We are too, because we want to do it before and after analysis.
We'll come back here and we'll let you know how it's working out for the residents. Because you've got people that work on Harbour Island that are here tonight. You've got all of your other people. Nobody that was included in the study was from Harbour Island, lives on Harbour Island. Your Stantec people don't live here. They work here.
Good evening. I'm probably the only person who doesn't live on Harbour Island who doesn't work for the city here. My name is Stephanie Pointer. I'm the president of Tampa Homeowners Association of Neighborhoods. I deal with these folks on a fairly regular basis. I'm very concerned about the very first thing that came out of somebody's mouth was that there's going to be a Cumberland parking garage. First I heard of it. I'm on the budget committee for the city, and I don't see it in the CIP plan. Wait, if somebody else... Well, if somebody else is building it, how do we know it's going to get built? We hear all the time about projects that are going to be built and they never get built. So let's not sell a bill of goods to the folks who are sitting here this evening that that's coming, unless it's really coming. Has it been permitted? Have they started on it? Those are the kind of questions that need to be asked in this situation. The other thing is these 10,000 units, I know what the answer is because Margaret's told me 100 times. But how are these neighbors supposed to know when 10,000 people are going to be downtown? They have the right, when they leave their house, to have a clue. I know the answer, but I want it to come out here.
What is the answer?
It is check lanes.
No.
That's what Margaret would tell me.
We send traffic advisories for all major.
Okay, and you're right, you do. You're right, you do.
And
I get them for
specifically
every,
to Harbour Island.
okay. I know this. What I get for the city, I get traffic notifications for the entire city to my email every day, and I send them out to my community. It doesn't mean that everyone gets them.
And that's how we do it on a number of different platforms.
But I want to make sure that folks understand that this parking garage we're talking about with 1,200 to 1,800 slots is not being built by the city.
Correct.
So how can we guarantee that it's coming? Because lots of people tell us that they're going to build stuff, and it doesn't happen.
Or that any of those spots will be for the people of the area. And
That's
not
my
just for
primary
residents that are
concern.
gonna be moving into those areas.
Stephanie, first the complaint was that the city didn't let you know we were building a garage, which clearly it's SPP's, and now the complaint is SPP, how do we know they're gonna build it? All right.
No, that's not what I
They've
said.
been
I
a good-
said, is it in the CIP? That's the very first place I
Right.
looked for it.
It's not
that's
because
where
we're
it
not
is.
building
If
it.
it's not,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Okay,
All
but
right.
it should show it.
So it is in the phase 2 of SPP's, and it's, from what they've told us, it's going to be the very first building. So we'll make sure that everyone understands that. The point of that was to say that these are going to be additional parking spots for events. The theme here is to push everyone north, so that you don't have the pedestrian. We will have the pedestrian traffic from the convention center. We are the only city, to my understanding, in the state of Florida that has not had conventions and conferences canceled. Matter of fact, this will be a banner year for the Tampa Convention Center, which brings more money to our city. And so those are issues that we are going to deal with, issues of our success. But the idea is to push everyone northbound. For example, in our Fort Brooks garage, that garage doesn't fill up during events. So why are people going past Fort Brooks on their way for events at Emily Arena? Because they want to find something closer. Again, with that wayfinding software system, we can let people know that this is a good place for you to park to go to these events. So there's not a one-size-fits-all that will answer everything, all of the issues. It's going to be a number of different avenues towards a solution of dealing with traffic in this particular area.
Please tell them where that money went to, that app. It was a $7 million. Where did it go?
It went into, it's supposed to be going into paving.
Thank you.
And we have an update from City Council on April 18th on how we're spending that money. So please tune in.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone. I think we have, yeah, 2 more minutes. Okay.
Also, if you sign up, we use a bunch of platforms to tell people about traffic issues. If you leave your email, you'll be added to the email list. So please do it if we don't have that already. And who's?
There you go, make it a
Okay, I will, I promise. Jessica Schwarzkopf, longtime Harbour Island resident, and I do think it is the best place to live. So I love living on Harbour Island, so I would definitely second that motion. But in the way that you were talking about moving traffic up north, and that little ramp that's going away now, I mean, that's always been my secret like escape route. When I was like, oh, I'm not gonna go back down Bayshore because that's gonna be a hot mess when I get there to Franklin. So I'm gonna take my little secret escape route. And now on a normal day, it's fine. It works perfectly. There's not a lot of traffic. I can easily get back onto Harbour Island, taking the back bridge, or even go under the parking thing at the arena and then come back that way. And during events, that's cut off, so I didn't get to use my secret escape route and get around all the Disney on Ice traffic this past weekend. I thought I was being sneaky, but I wasn't. Because that is, that ramp is cut off for any kind of large event, so that's not even being used for large events anyway. But I guess it's a moot point, because you said that's already going away. But it's like, as we're moving everybody north, that means we're all moving north too. So now we've got to double back, and the Meridian Road, Meridian and Beneficial right there, channel side, when we're getting ready to go onto the island with the USF Health Center on this side, That has been minimized to 1 lane, and the one on the side here is just a turning lane. Now, there's 2 lanes on the island, so if this lane were a turning lane and straight lane, that would be great, because traffic can either turn or go straight. Because that's getting the really backed up too for people who are wanting to go on Harbour Island. The turning lane, there's barely anybody there. There's still people there, but if you're trying to go on Harbour Island, then everybody gets backed up in that 1 lane, even the people trying to make a left-hand turn to Sparkman Wharf. So it just gets really kind of sticky in there. So, we don't even have sometimes the Franklin Street Bridge. That's cut off, and our only means and access onto the island is that. So I'm almost more concerned about that bridge than I am the other bridge. So I wanted to say that. So thank you.
Okay, I guess we've run out of time. David's going to evict us. But again, I want to say thank you to everyone for taking your time. Please share your information. We do try to communicate as much as we can about the traffic issues, about the events that are coming to our city. As stated, there's not one answer to everything, but each of you in the room who live on Harbour Island are experts, and you understand. And you look at some of the improvements that we're making with the wastewater, that, blocking that intersection right there and then having Disney on Ice, I mean, you saw it this weekend. And we're working with the valets, JW Marriott. We included that in their design. Unfortunately, the Marriott, the circle up there and how far that valet is away, we've continued to work with them on that issue. Any ideas anybody has, we are open to those suggestions. But again, these development, as Vic said, cities develop. We're very fortunate that we are successfully growing. The 2 things that lag are school systems. They wait until all the kids are there to have to build a school, and transportation. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs, and we're doing it in as timely a fashion as we can, but we can't afford to make mistakes. So we all want to work together. So again, thank you. We will have a follow-up meeting. And I do want to, before we all leave, recognize Representative Pittman one more time, because she has fought tirelessly for this area and a number of other projects for the city of Tampa up in Tallahassee. So we thank her. Please stay in contact. We'll let you know when the follow-up meeting is, and we appreciate your assistance.